Therapy Chat Podcast, episode 181.
This is the Therapy Chat Podcast with Laura Reagan, LCSWC. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. And now, here's your host, Laura Reagan, LCSWC.
Today's episode is sponsored by Therapy Notes. When it comes to keeping your practice organized, you want software that's not only simple, but the best. I recommend Therapy Notes. Their platform lets you manage notes, claims, scheduling, and more. Plus, they offer amazing unlimited phone and email support, so when you have a question, they're there to help. To get 2 free months of Therapy Notes today, just use the promo code TherapyChat when you sign up for a free trial at www.therapynotes.com. Hi, welcome back to Therapy Chat. On this podcast, I've talked a lot about self-care and interviewed a lot of people who talk about self-care, but haven't had too much on about that lately. And I have a guest today who has a book about self-care for counselors. My guest today is Chris McDonald. We are going to talk about simple ways to practice self-care during and after our work and on an ongoing basis to keep us as well as we can be when we do our work. So let's just dive right in. Chris is going to give us many examples of ways that we can practice kind of more holistic self-care as therapists. So let's dig in. Therapy Chat Podcast wouldn't exist without the support of its listeners. If you'd like to become a member, please go to patreon.com/therapychat. By making a $1 per month donation, you can help Therapy Chat keep going over the long haul. Thank you for your support. Hi, welcome back to Therapy Chat. Today, I'm very excited to be talking with someone all the way from Raleigh, North Carolina. My guest today is Chris McDonald. Chris, thanks so much for being my guest on Therapy Chat today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here too. And we had to reschedule because of me being sick a couple months ago. So I'm grateful that you could still do it. Thank you for that.
Well, that's part of physical self-care, taking care of yourself.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is Self-Care for the Counselor, which is the name of your book, Self-Care for the Counselor, a holistic guide for helping professionals. A very important topic and one that we have covered multiple times in multiple ways on Therapy Chat, but I feel like there's never too much conversation about self-care because it's imperative to our survival in our professions.
Exactly. I totally agree. That's why I really was interested in this topic. It's definitely something that therapists don't necessarily do enough of. Most therapists I meet, they struggle with doing it consistently.
I agree. So, Chris, before we even dive into talking about that, let's just take a minute for you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little bit about yourself and your work.
I have a private practice in Raleigh. It's called Path to Hope Counseling. I'm a holistic therapist. So part of my focus is treating the whole individual, mind, body, and spirit. And I focus on teens, young adults with anxiety, depression, and trauma. But the second part of my business is focused on working with therapists. So I provide therapy for therapists. I also do help with self-care consults, and provide some workshops on holistic self-care. So that's kind of 2 parts of my business.
Wonderful and much needed. So I'm so glad you're doing that work. So can we start off with you kind of describing sort of how you conceptualize the idea of counselor self-care?
Conceptualize. So I think if I look at it from the holistic perspective, which that's just always been a focus for me, even since grad school when I learned about, that was one focus of therapy that can be just to look at the whole person. And I feel like as therapists that we have to do this more than other people in other professions because we're taking in so much negative energy and so much coming at us that in order for us to be most effective, that we really have to take care of ourselves, body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah. So that's the classic line that people always say when you say, you're at a party or you're at anywhere and you're like, hi, I'm Laura, I'm a therapist. And the person's like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? That must be so hard. Don't you get depressed from hearing all those stories all the time? And I always struggle with that because I'm like, it's not depressing. It's like, it's an honor. But yes, it's also true that there is a lot of pain that you're exposed to through work and all day long.
Yes, exactly.
If I meet with 5 or 6 clients in a day, that's 5 or 6 people's immense pain that I've sat with. Let's talk about some of the things that you recommend for people to help with not absorbing all of that negative energy and just taking it in. Eventually we would crumble if we just did that.
For sure. So part of it too is clearing your space. And I know that's not talked about a lot in our field. And that was something I've explored on my own and learned from some other people I've talked with and online, and just trying to find what works for me. But making sure to use essential oils to clear your space. I use a diffuser every day. I also use some crystals, so black tourmaline. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's one that really absorbs negative energy. So I've been really focused on just making sure my space is clear. There's sage spray you can get, and I have a spray that I make because I do energy healing as well. So the spray, you'll laugh at this, but it's vodka and lavender, but it actually clears.
Sounds just right to me.
Don't drink it. Don't drink it. But it's clearing the negative energy. And especially with a really difficult, heavy client with a lot of issues, I'm out there, I'm just a spraying. But it feels better. Like you can feel it better after you do that. But it is that self-awareness, because during sessions, you can start to feel that anxiety or depression, especially if you're more an empath, somebody that takes in, you can really feel other people's pain, which obviously a lot of therapists are. So if you start to feel that during a session, to really imagine a shield coming up, an invisible shield, to kind of just protect yourself. You're still there with your client, but imagining that come up and just like in your own little bubble, right? So that it can just kind of bounce off into the floor and not absorb to you. Because I have found that sometimes, especially really depressed clients, I'm depressed for days if I don't take care of myself and put that shield up, and I can kind of feel the emotions coming and kind of, I don't know how the word is sticking to me. So that's why I do that during session. You can also ground yourself during session, which could be pushing your feet into the floor if you need to. Because sometimes we do become ungrounded. It's not always stable for us. Or if it's too much of a connection, you can gently lift your feet off the floor so you're not connected to them. That was something I learned recently. So just simple things that nobody's going to know what you're doing, and, kind of protecting yourself. Of course, you want to be there for your client, but you got to protect your own self-care, and so that you're not absorbing this and causing your own mental health issues.
Yes. So I'm thinking like you're meeting with your client and someone is in an immense amount of pain. They don't want you to become in an immense amount of pain while you're with them, because then you can't be with them with their pain, because yours is now in the room too, Right. And I mean, we all have our own pain and we all have our own experiences. I firmly believe that we all have our own experiences that kind of make us become therapists and make us good at putting everyone else first.
Exactly.
And then it also backfires, because then our health begins to suffer, and, all those other things, our mental health, our physical health.
And it leads to burnout and compassion fatigue. So I've talked to a lot of therapists too and it's unfortunate that it's to that point where it's so bad that they can't function. And some people got to take leaves of absences. They can't even, be a therapist now because they have nothing left to give. And that's your sign that this is compassion fatigue and I need to take care of myself. But part of what I teach too is to really prevent that and to put some plans in place so that you can take care of your physical health and your mental health. And what are you doing for social support? All the parts of yourself, the whole self. So that you can prevent so it doesn't happen. Because, of course, we don't want to wait till people are at the end of their rope to, take care of that.
Yes. I'm just thinking, I used to be so judgmental about therapists who got burned out because I felt like they didn't take care of themselves properly. I'm sure it's because, there's a part of me that judged myself for not taking care of myself as well as I should. And I would think kind of that almost that they brought it on themselves, which is a very uncompassionate way to view that, because I think what really is happening is that people are just so passionate about helping and it becomes this almost urgency to help and help everyone and, do more and do more.
Exactly.
It's part of our work that we can get really caught
our
up
DNA,
in
right?
Well, literally with epigenetics, it probably is in our DNA, like generations upon generations of people who experience trauma in our lineage. And then here we come and we're like, well, I'm going to fix everything for everyone. I'm the superhero. I'm going to come in and rescue everyone. So obviously we know that's not a healthy way to think if you're a therapist, but I think that's kind of underlying what drives us into this field. And then hopefully we learn that you can't fix people and you're not here to rescue people and, all that. But inside there's that, urge or initially, I believe.
Yeah, that judgment, I guess. But I think it's important for everyone to remember is that we're all at risk.
Exactly.
Everybody. And some people are more at risk than others. Like, trauma therapists are most at risk. They really have to boost that self-care.
That's me.
Because me too. So the more, difficult clients you have and extreme issues and, trauma upon trauma, the more it's going to impact you. So you really have to put yourself in the best position to help them by taking care of yourself. And people don't like to hear that either, but the more stress you have too in your life, the more self-care you have to do, which people don't like that hear that either, but it's just reality. Because a lot of times what's the first thing we do when we get stressed, right? We stop exercising, we start eating junk food, we take away all those healthy things, and which adds to our stress level.
Yeah. If I'm stressed, I sleep less well. Exactly. I work more, which is not good. I prepare less healthy meals for myself. I neglect my self-care more. Yeah.
So you can relate.
And, that's the thing, like you said before about how being grounded doesn't stay stable. It's not like I wake up in the morning grounded and I stay grounded all day long. As a human being, my emotions fluctuate throughout the day and I have to be tuning in with where I am at all moments.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's kind of go back to some of the things you touched on and just get a little bit more in depth. Starting off with crystals. Can you kind of talk about like maybe several different ways crystals can be a part of self-care?
One way for therapists, and this is what I do, is I have different ones around my office and just put them, I have like little side tables where clients can put their drinks. I have crystals there and I have them on my windowsill, just on my shelf, just all around different corners of my room, because that helps to clear the negative energy. And just one thing, if you're not sure which crystals to get, you can always read about them and determine that, because there are some that a big focus is, clearing space, clearing negative energy, connecting to higher power. So whatever it is that you think might be helpful in your self-care. Sometimes holding crystals, feeling their energy can help release. Using a crystal on your chakras. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with chakras, but they're that little energy centers. Yes. There's energy centers in different parts of your body, and they can be either depleted you can lose a lot of energy there, or they can be overwhelmed, and it can cause problems in your physical body. So using crystals to help, you can put that, like you have a chakra on top of your head, which is your crown chakra. You have one in between your eyes. You might have heard the third eye. So even putting that crystal on your chakra can help clear the energy, clear the negative energy. That's where a lot of that negative energy can be absorbed, is in our chakras. And so we have to find ways to clear that energy. But sometimes we can do that through meditation as well. So there are some chakra clearing meditations that are very helpful. I use an app called Insight Timer, and there's some really good ones on there. Free too.
I use Insight Timer also.
I know, it's great. It's
really
helpful.
Do you think that there are some specific chakra clearing meditations on Insight Timer?
Yes, most definitely. So yeah, all you got to do is put it in the search box and do that. And sometimes too, and I have regular Reiki. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's just the energy clearing. So I have someone that helps me with physical issues, or if I'm really anxious about something, I just contact her and she does sessions for me. So that also helps me with my self-care, which is not something that I know a lot of people think about, but that is something that's so helpful. And I swear to God, the energy is so powerful with this person that just reaching out to her, sometimes I feel better. I don't know if that's psychosomatic, but it's true.
Well, that they say that Reiki is, energy healing, so it doesn't have to be in person. And I'd love for you, when you said she does that for me, can you tell us what you mean by that?
So she's distant. Honestly, I don't even know where she lives. And it doesn't matter because energy healing can be done anywhere. So I do energy healing as well. So I can treat anyone in the world, basically. So being able to look at the chakras, because you develop those skills and clearing them and then putting into positive life energy, which is prana. So giving the good energy, taking the negative out, putting the positive in, basically is a simplified way of looking at that. And there's specific protocols for certain issues that they can do. So that's how she kind of works on me, and she'll do several sessions over a few days, like 10 minutes each. And it makes such a difference. I can't begin to tell you how much it helps.
So that's kind of where the energetic boundaries come in, right? Can you talk a little bit about that idea? Subtle body and all?
Yeah, that's part of the chakras, is the subtle body, is what happens with our chakras impacts our physical body, right? And our mental health too. So for an example, your throat chakra, I don't know if you've ever experienced having clients that have difficulty, like they'll have voice issues or sore throats, coughing. And what that can manifest is that there's something they're not saying. They're holding back something that they are
not
afraid
consciously.
to say. Right. No, not consciously, but this is something that there's some kind of emotional component that they're holding back something, which most people don't think of things that way, but that's true. It really does work that way. So yeah, that's part of the subtle body too. It's all interconnected. And that's what we got to remember, that mind, body, spirit's all interconnected. If one part of us is off, like say your throat chakra, that's going to impact the rest of your body too. So yeah, it's all connected.
Awesome. So regular Reiki, and you do it distance.
Yes.
And you talked about having crystals around, and you talk about clearing the energy. So is there a certain kind of like schedule throughout your day in which you clear the energy of your space? And you'd also mentioned your vodka and lavender spray and sage sprays.
Right. Yeah. Most definitely. I do that after some sessions, but usually at the end of the day, I also like to clear the energy. One way you can do that too is have a meditation bowl, singing bowl, and you can ding the bowl around your room, go clockwise, and that kind of sweeps the negative energy out.
Okay.
Or clapping in corners can get rid of negative energy. And if you ever leave a session and you're walking to your car and you start to feel really depressed or anxious, there's really difficult feelings, sometimes that could be because something attached to you. So you need to stand on the ground. Hopefully, if you can do it on grass, it's better. Stand on the earth and say in your mind forcefully, I let go of any energy that's not mine, but say it really strongly in your mind. And you can also say, I let this energy go into the earth. And the earth is a great recycler of emotions. And it's okay to send that into the earth. It doesn't cause any damage or problems. But letting that go. And then what I found is like, it doesn't happen immediate, but then like maybe 20, 30 minutes later, oh, okay, I'm back to myself again. And I've kind of let that negative energy go.
Yeah. So when you're talking about negative energy, I'm wondering if I know exactly what you mean, because I think of like clearing out someone else's energy, whatever it is that I don't need to have in there because the next person's coming in, but then is negative energy like a specific thing?
No, I mean, it couldn't be just someone else's energy.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't have to be. I say negative because I think like depression is negative for me if I'm holding on to someone else's stuff. We don't have room to hold on to other people's energy.
Well, no one likes feeling depressed. It is what we would call a negative emotion. But of course, sadness is also, sometimes there's a really good reason for feeling sad. So
exactly. Yeah. Well, I guess clearing out whatever energy. Yeah, whatever energy that you don't want, right? If you feel something's attaching to you and it's not feeling good for you, just finding ways to let that go. And in between sessions, and I think it's so important to make sure, that's what I teach therapists as well, to have some kind of buffer so that you're not like, bam, I see one client, they're gone, next person in. Mm-hmm. You need a minute. You need to take a minute. Yeah. Otherwise that leads to a lot of compassion fatigue and overwhelm and exhaustion for you. So even just closing your eyes and doing some deep breathing. I do yoga poses in my office all the time because that's part of, I'm in a teacher yoga training for subtle yoga. So I've been learning a lot about that, and incorporating that in between sessions makes a world of difference. Because I think that releases some of the energy that I don't want as well, using the physical body.
Yeah. So are you able to tell us a couple of examples of certain poses that you use to help you reset between clients?
Yeah, one I like to do is to do ragdoll, which is basically going into a forward fold and holding your elbows and just kind of resting. It's kind of, to me, it's like soothing. It's kind of releasing for me for some reason. I can't explain the science why it feels that way, but it is calming the nervous system for me.
It makes sense to me because it feels like it would elongate your spine. And then, what's been maybe compressed while you were in your session is it's guess in a way it's an inversion, right? So
it's an inversion.
Yeah. So you're like letting all of that weight that was compressed down go the opposite way. Also blood to your brain.
Right. And sometimes I just do side twist, like half moon pose, where you put your arms up and lean to the side as you inhale, holding that and exhaling. So just stretching the back, because I have back issues. So I have to be real careful to make sure I'm moving in between sessions and getting something going with my spine. Otherwise, I'm in a lot of pain. So I have to, for both things, for mental health and physical health, I think it's really important.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a really big connection between our sitting all day as therapists and how so many therapists have back issues.
Yeah.
And how we hold emotional pain in our hips and our shoulders,
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I have all of those.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's part of ergonomics too. And that's something I've talked about. I have a Facebook group for therapists that I talk about some of this stuff too, because it's so important that we're sitting correctly. One thing that I do is I have a yoga block under my feet now so that I'm not crossing my legs, because my physical therapist said that my psoas muscle was getting tight.
Yep.
Because I'm crossing my legs. So that helps me keep my feet together and try to be more ergonomically correct.
I crossed my legs during sessions for probably 10 years, 9 years.
Yeah,
and
me too.
I can't do it anymore. And my psoas are wrecked. Yes. So now I'm very intentional to keep my feet flat on the floor. But even the height of the chair and the height of the arms of the chair, like if I want to rest my arms on the armrest, but for my chair, I think the armrests are just a little too high for me to be able to relax my shoulders. So just holding your body in that position all day.
Yeah, hours.
Yeah.
So that's why getting up and moving is so a big part of self-care and holistic self-care. And just, sometimes I go for walks in my parking lot and just connect with nature, do mindful walks, just looking at the trees, taking some fresh air, and just mindfully walking, counting my paces, whatever it takes to kind of, again, that releases energy I don't want. And just connecting with the earth is so important.
It is. And I really love that example you gave of I let go of any energy that's not mine, or I let this energy go into the earth. That
I let this
really resonates.
And it's simple, right? It's not anything that's going to take a lot of time. And, it's something everybody can do. And to be mindful of that, to have that awareness that I do need to release this stuff, because it can really cause you so many physical and mental issues if you're not letting this stuff go.
Right. It's enough for the person who's experiencing it to bring it in and let it out in the session. But for us, if it's 5 people, then you're holding 5 people's stuff, from one day, and then the next day, 5 more people. And those
it adds up.
Other people don't want all that extra stuff to come back to them either from,
right.
That we are holding for someone else.
Yeah. You're thinking about the last person. So you don't want to bring that to your client. And then let's say it transfers to them too. They don't need other people's stuff. Obviously, they're coming to you for help. So.
Exactly. They're like,
so you want to
feel more when I left here than I brought in.
Yeah. So you want to be clear and present and grounded as much as you can. We're not perfect, obviously, but doing these small things. And I think that's as important to remember is that self-care doesn't have to be expensive. It can be easy, simple things you do every day. And that's a lot of what I teach too, is simple practices that everybody can do. It doesn't have to be weekly massage or vacations every month. It can be, what can I do during, between sessions to help myself?
Yes, as I was reading through your book, I thought to myself, because I tend to beat myself up about not doing enough self-care.
Oh, okay.
So as I'm thinking about self-care, I beat myself up. Like, how ironic is that? I'm like, you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. It's like being a perfectionist about self-care.
Right.
Yeah. But when I was reading through your book, I thought, I'm doing better than I thought I was. A lot of these things I do practice, and they are simple things, like you mentioned, like having a supportive bed and soft sheets and, weighted blankets and things that are really, some of them are a one-time expense, but the payoff is long-term.
For sure. Yeah. Because I think the definition of self-care, right? People don't really understand sometimes that taking time to eat lunch, that's self-care, right? Because some people skip lunch, doing these things for you, these little extra things, I call them mini gifts for yourself. What can you do this week for yourself? That would be, maybe you want a latte, and I'm not against that either. I think that can be part of self-care. If that's something you really enjoy, hey, get your latte. There's your little mini gift to yourself. I think that's important, just to do those small things, right? That means something to you.
Yeah. The idea of the mini gift, like the latte, is like really savoring something that brings you pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be a major thing, just something small to kind of, take your mind off things and bring you to a good place, and mindfully drinking it, taking your time. And
yeah, I love going back to the crystals. I love that you mentioned black tourmaline, because I had someone was telling me, it was someone I was working with told me about, they said, don't all the therapists have tourmaline? And I was like, tourmaline? What's that? And they were like, it's a crystal. And I was like, that sounds, they were saying, it sounds like, that's the crystal that all the therapists like to have to clear energy. I was like, I wonder if they're talking about tourmaline. I'd heard of it, but I never heard of that connection. And I was, when I said that, and they were like, that's what it is. But, I was like, tourmaline, that's easy to remember, because I'm a trauma therapist. I'm doing trauma work.
That's funny. Hey, that's a good way to remember it, for sure.
Exactly. But so about crystals, like, you talked about how you have them on your bookshelf and on your side tables and on your windowsill. They talk about with crystals, like other people's energy being with the crystals too. So I have not been really sure. I have crystals in my office, but I wasn't really sure, like, what happens if 10 different people handle the crystals? Do they need to be charged? Yeah. So how do you do that?
So there's different ways you can do it. I find the easiest is to put it in sunlight. Sunlight can clear other people's energy. That's why I say windowsill, because I have direct sunlight for many hours in my office. So that's one way. You can put it in a salt bath. So just putting some sea salt, and the pink sea salt's the best, with some water is one way. I have a friend that has some. She's really good about knowing how to clear crystals. She sometimes has helped me, but that's the easiest ways, I think, is the sunlight and salt bath. You don't have to get too complicated with this, because there's if you look it up, it's like, oh my God, there's 20 different ways, but just keeping it simple, But you do have to release it, because I do have clients that play with them. So I try to make sure, just if one person plays with them, then okay, I got to clear this crystal now and let go of that energy.
Yeah, because I like the opportunity for people to see them. They're visually appealing. They
Yes.
feel nice to hold. They're, some are more appealing than others, and people are drawn to different ones. And so I don't want to make them not accessible to my clients,
No,
but I wasn't sure how to optimize that.
Yeah. So you do got to be careful because you don't want to have, like you said, 10 people handling one crystal. You got to make sure to clear that energy. And especially if it's all, there's a lot of people handling them. It's going to be a big difference in how that crystal feels, and it's going to get more clouded. So keeping that as a conscious effort to clear them.
So interesting.
Yeah.
And so can we talk more about essential oils?
Sure. So yeah, I use essential oils every day. Well, part of my self-care as far as my physical self-care, because I use like lavender on the bottom of my feet before bed. That makes a huge difference in sleep. And that's what I teach other therapists as well, to, if you have problems sleeping, to use that. Sometimes chamomile is a really good essential oil that you can use as well. Diffusers in your office. Of course, you got to be careful with people that might have allergies or reactions to some scents. But having that, most people really love it. They're like, oh my gosh, what is that smell? That's so awesome. So I get a lot of different blends that are already pre-made, and just put it in there in my diffuser. And sometimes some are more uplifting. So if you have like wild orange, that's a good one. If you have people coming in that are depressed, sometimes I think about, who do I have coming in today?
Yeah.
And obviously people have different needs, but if I have a few people with depression, let me put some wild orange in there. Or you can do lavender and lemon, which can be relaxing but uplifting at the same time. So there's all different like combinations you can do. And frankincense is one too that helps clear negative energy.
Okay.
So there's all different kinds of ways you can use them. I use it with clients too, to say, hey, do you want to smell this? Because if they say, oh, I really like that scent, and so I'll bring up the essential oil to them and let them put some on if they want to. And most people that come to me I'm a holistic therapist, so they come to me because I'm open to that, and they really like that. So most people are pretty open to it.
Yeah, it's kind of what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, as part of treatment. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely found lavender can help people who are feeling really anxious and kind of panicky, and some of the more grounding ones like rosemary, frankincense, patchouli, the earthy ones,
for sure,
can really help when someone is feeling exceptionally ungrounded. And in trauma work, that often happens. Exactly.
And looking at your own self-care, what do I need today? Oh man, I am so tired. I need some wild orange. Let me get some of that going in my office. So again, that balance of taking care of you, but taking care of your clients too.
Yeah, I like spraying lavender and peppermint in the waiting area, before we start the day. It just has like a really fresh, sometimes for some people the lavender can be a little too sweet.
Yeah.
But with the peppermint, it has like a nice fresh feeling first thing.
Yeah, exactly. Peppermint's really good, uplifting for sure.
Yeah. So where can people who would like to learn more about practicing in this way or get support from you, where can they find what you're doing?
They can come to my website. So my website's www.pathtohopecounseling.com. I have an information page for therapists on there too, and upcoming events, because I do self-care group for therapists locally, and have workshops that I do for therapists. So.
Great. And then you have a website, a Facebook page for therapists too.
So that group is Holistic Self-Care for Counselors.
Oh,
so
okay. I was in that
counselor.
Group.
Oh, yay.
I didn't know it was your group.
It's my group. I was a school counselor, so I wanted to include my school counselor friends too. So
yeah. Oh, they need it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure. So I do a lot of holistic things in there, and do some of my yoga and do meditation twice a month on there as well.
Well, I need to get a little bit more active in there so I can keep up with that.
Join me.
Yeah. Yeah. Can people find your book on your website?
Yes, it's on my front page, and it's also on Amazon. So they can go either place.
Okay. And that's Self-Care for the Counselor, a holistic guide for helping professionals by Christine McDonald.
Yes.
Chris, thank you so much for being my guest on Therapy Chat today.
Well, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for listening to my interview with Chris McDonald. Surely you got some self-care tips that you can use from this episode. She had so many suggestions. I hope you did anyway. I know I did. And it's always good to be reminded that self-care can be free. It should be always accessible to us. So it doesn't always have to be things that cost a lot of money or take up a lot of time. As always, I appreciate you for listening to Therapy Chat, and I'll be talking with you again soon. Today's episode is sponsored by Therapy Notes. There are many ways to keep your practice organized, but Therapy Notes is the best. Their easy-to-use, secure platform lets you not only do your billing, scheduling, and progress notes, but also create a client portal to share documents and request signatures. Plus, they offer amazing unlimited phone support, so when you have a question, you can get help fast. To get started with the practice management software trusted by over 60,000 professionals, go to therapynotes.com and start a free trial today. If you enter promo code TherapyChat, they will give you 2 months to try it out for free. Just another reminder that if you'd like to become a member of Therapy Chat, supporting the podcast while receiving fun member perks and being able to communicate with me one-on-one, go to patreon.com/therapychat. If every subscriber donated just $1 per month, Therapy Chat would be able to keep going strong indefinitely. Thanks so much for your support.
Thank you for listening to Therapy Chat with your host, Laura Reagan, LCSWC. For more information, please visit therapychatpodcast.com.